That's how we're going to win. Not fighting what we hate, but saving what we love. And somebody that knows how to save what we love, the self-proclaimed king of wedding entertainment, is Daniel Linares, who had to move from his comfort zone to his stretch zone and maybe into his panic zone a few times as he made sure he could continue delivering what his guests expected. Daniel, do we have you with us tonight?
Yes, you do. Hello, hello.
Hello, welcome to Dubrovnik. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm loving what's going on. Shout out to everybody in Croatia. I'm honored to be here.
Great to see you. Excellent. Okay, well, tell us everything about you and your story this year.
That sounds great. Hello, everybody. I wanted to thank my friend Elan, who is in this room, for connecting me with all of you the last week and really planning the last couple months. I had the honor of being one of the hosts for something that we do in New York normally, but we had the luxury of being virtual this year, which is the Event Planner Expo, where we had over 100 speakers, including Dama John, Kevin Harrington, Tim Story, and just a beautiful list of people that were in my industry, which I'll tell you about in a second, and people that just helped give great perspective on where we are right now. And I believe perspective is really the king of happiness. It is really how you focus and what you're doing every single day that's going to decide if you're going to stay stuck, if you're going to finally lean into that pivot, or if you're going to go full force into that pivot. And there's normally people that are in sort of those three buckets. You're still waiting for things to go back and you're just going to wait it out. I know there's some beautiful beaches by you, and maybe they're on the beach and not pivoting as they should. And I'm hopefully going to be sharing some wisdom with all of you that will give you some confidence, will give you some perspective on what's possible. I was able to do a successful pivot not too long ago, and I'm ready to dive right in. So my name is Daniel Linares. I am based in New York City, and my normal business is we run wedding entertainment and corporate entertainment in the New York tri-state area. I'm an MC. I'm a DJ. I have a singing and performance background, and I just love to throw fun events and bring joy to people and create these incredible memories. But like many of you, when March, April hit, it was like, how long is this going to actually last? And I enjoyed my sort of time off for a little bit, because as we roll into March and April in New York, it starts to really pick up for spring weddings. And cancellation after cancellation, I started to think, okay, whoa, weddings are not coming back anytime soon. Like cancellations every week, or reschedules rather, but cancellations on these dates that I was planning to be present on, moving to next year. So I started to think, what can I do now that can help others? And I started to think of the New York City school system. In June, it's huge for proms. It is huge for graduations. And I said, what if I can reach out to decision makers in education and see if I could help them in some way? And here's a little distinction that I kind of wrestled with in my mind, like, who am I to help schools when my niche, my industry has been weddings and corporate? Who am I? But I knew I had the skills and I knew I had the resources. I was doubling down into learning streaming technology. And you know what? I could figure it out. I've a few times have understood the importance of uncertainty, and we're going to dive into how valuable it is to actually step into things that you've never done before, where there's tremendous growth in those kind of opportunities. So I spoke to my assistant and I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to scour the internet. We're going to use Google. We're going to look for all the principals, all the superintendents, and try to grab those emails and reach out to people. Cold emails, but a warm outreach. Hey, everybody. My name is Daniel. I'm a 2005 New York City graduate. with the Frank Sinatra School of the Arts. I'm reaching out because I'd love to offer help. And I told them what my company did, short and sweet, would love an opportunity to chat. We did this every day, and I looked it up. Gmail has about a 500 limit a day limit. And there's other tools where you can, send mass messaging out. But I said, you know what? Let us do a few hundred a day. 200 to 300 a day is what we did. And we started to get calls, and we started to arrange calls. And over the course of about 3 to 4 weeks, it was about 5 or 6 things that were in the books. We were helping people with these events. And I said, you know what? Why not reach even higher? Principals, superintendents in New York and the US are obviously principals are running the school, and superintendent's more of a district thing. I said, who's above those people that might be calling the shots? And I said, the chancellor of education, who's always sitting next to the mayor. Not too thrilled with the mayor, but that's another conversation. But this chancellor is the decision maker in education. I said, let me see if I could find this person's email address. And I did. Who else is attached to the chancellor? And all the other fancy titles, right? The secretary of this, the assistant to the director of this, the mayor of New York, found that email address. The governor of New York State found that email address. I said, what is there to lose? Oh my gosh, I'm going to reach out to the chancellor. I'm so nervous. There's these stories that we tell ourselves that hold us back, and it's normally 10 times the amount of fear that it really is. It's not a big deal. Offer to help. This is the big distinction. Marketers are always thinking about, how can I make money for myself? How can I make money for myself? How can I make money for my company? Instead of, how can I help them? And then figure out the other stuff after that. Buy my stuff, set up a link so we can chat. No. How can I help you? I'd love to help you do something special. Students for years were looking forward to prom, to graduation, to having their moment of fame on stage when they say their name. And now it's not going to happen. I'd love to offer our help. So that's one little lesson in there. When you're doing outreach, when you're offering to help people, don't think, how am I going to earn money for us and be selfish? Think, how can I help as many people or as many companies or as many organizations as I can? Because humans and people want to reciprocate. If you help 10 people do something great, they're probably going to want to help you back. And back to my story here. So we reach for the stars unapologetically, wanting to help, not pitching them, wanting to help. How can we help? We'd love to help. This is what we do. This is what we're doing as far as pivoting. We can help you do graduations and virtual events. A few days later, I get an email from the director of IT for the Department of Education in New York City. He's in charge of over 1,800 schools just within New York City. And I said, whoa, did this just happen? Is this about to go down? Am I about to get interviewed to potentially get on a list that's going to go out to 1,800 people? And that was the case. So he set up a call similar to this. Of course, it's going to be virtual, but it was important for me to get some FaceTime and show some visuals and so forth. And we spoke a lot about privacy and security. So we spoke about what's really important. So all these students' private information that would be sent over to us, they need to make sure that it's in good hands. So end of the call, he said, Dan, I think you guys would be a phenomenal fit. And there was one moment on that call that was the decision maker for me, which is, hey, Dan, if we sent you 20 to 30 schools, could you do their graduations? In my head, I was like, oh my goodness. But I didn't show that, right? Oh my goodness, that would be great. 20 to 30 graduations. We're postponing 20 to 30 weddings. This would be a great sort of swap around. I could have said, no, I've never done that before. I've never done that many virtual graduations. So the conversation was mostly around virtual graduations. The events were sort of not as important as these really special moments for the students. Can you guys hear me okay? My notification just said my internet's unstable. It's good? Okay. He said 20 to 30 schools. Could you handle it? I said, absolutely. I have the resources around me. If I need to bring in freelancers that are in my world, video editors and so forth, I'll make it happen. We can definitely do this. So I was confident in the unknown. This is one little piece I want you guys to really think about. The biggest growth that I've noticed is when we're out of our comfort zones. When the healthy anxiety, I call it, it's literally a relationship with the emotions that we have. Healthy anxiety of, oh my goodness, there's butterflies in my stomach, but I'm going to do it anyway. The great Kobe Bryant said something that is going to forever be in my mind. Rest in peace to Kobe. He said when he was younger, when he was starting out in the NBA, he used to have fear of these really high pressure moments, and he used to pretend it wasn't there. Pretend it wasn't there. Ignore it. And then as he matured, and I'm sure he got some great coaching in there, as he matured, he started to have a different relationship with fear. He used to try to ignore it. And then when he became the Kobe Bryant that we now remember as a legend, he would look at the fear in the eye and acknowledge it and say, I see you, but I'm having a different relationship with you than I used to. That is a massive change in mindset and a massive change of, whoa, fear is actually a superpower of us growing. And I've realized the more I'm out of my comfort zone, the more potential for growth there is. So I said yes, 20 to 30 schools is what he said. He sent over an NDA. We signed it. I didn't know there was a virtual NDA service. There is. Definitely over here. I'm sure over there as well. Apparently you guys have like the fastest internet in the world, and I'm jealous. So that is amazing. So he said, thanks, I got everything. I'll be in touch. And I didn't hear from him for 7 days. This is the end of May. Schools usually do graduations at the end of June in the area. So I started to anticipate things. I'm like, oh my gosh, if we get on a list of 1,800 schools, this is going to be madness. So I started to think of all the different streams people are going to find us. I said, all right, I kind of put a pause on our virtual receptionist service that we use, which literally fields all of our calls. We never get a missed calls. I put a pause on it. I called them up. I said, hey, you know what? I'd like to reactivate because we're anticipating a storm. And this was the calm before the storm. I pretty much set up automations on my website. When people reach out, I want this to be sent to them. I want them to be able to receive this. And in the first Friday in June, I get the email. He said, Daniel, the list has gone out. I said, oh my goodness. Of course, New York City sends it out a Friday after 5 p.m. to all the decision makers. If they're not already overwhelmed with what they have to do. So we get 4 people contact us on Friday. And it gets into our system, into our automation. We get the information that they need. On the weekend, we get another maybe dozen. And then Monday, Tuesday, we get hundreds of people contacting us. And I'm like, my goodness, we need to adapt, get a bigger team on board. Let's pull people in. How are we going to do this? Daily anxiety, yes. But my relationship with it was daily growth. Would I'd like it to have been a little bit more time between the first Friday in June and then the last graduation at the end of June? Sure. So we had 21 days to pull this off. So I'm on who knows how many calls and meetings. My girlfriend, shout out to Mariani, who I believe is watching, she was off from her job that she worked in Midtown New York City. So I said, you're hired. She's a quick learner. But she didn't know how to use all the tools that I use. She learned it in a few days, which was absolutely amazing. And between her, I have virtual team members around the world. We started to build a system. And I started to think, how am I going to pull this off? Right? This is the uncertainty part. How the heck am I going to pull off 20 to 30 virtual graduations. What do I know about virtual graduations? But the part that I left out is I worked at Apple from 2006 to 2009. So maybe that's a little bit of a boost. But either way, you don't need to figure everything out for yourself. You just need to be resourceful and know that your network or somebody that's connected to somebody in your network can probably help you figure it out. So I started to reach out and we started to book everybody. And we ended up booking 65 virtual events in 7 days. There's a couple tricklers in the following weeks. But within 7 days, there wasn't a lot of time for people to decide what to do, who to hire, what was this. Our pricing, we raised it because of such volume, literally within 24 hours after booking so many people. And I said, okay, we need to start thinking with the time that we have, how are we going to pull this off? So I ended up hiring 18 video editors. Before I started getting into the editors, there was somebody in the live space that said that they can help me record schools in real time, which in theory sounds great. Oh my goodness, it's like a news station. It's technology where you can record it in real time. I'm like, wow, that would be great. But in my head, I'm like, no offense to the staff that work at schools, but they're not on camera personalities that can talk and get the speech the way they want it on the first try. They're going to want to redo it. That's what I had in my mind. But I said, you know what? Let me embrace this. This person that I was connected to through actually a Facebook group. There is massive power in Facebook groups, by the way. And I'll tell you why in a second, even more so. This gentleman, we tried the first school on a Saturday. So this was like a blessing. The first school that wanted to record all their speeches with us, we wanted to pre-record everything, and then we were going to stream it out the day of. It was more of a quality control thing with the schools. They didn't want the variables of internet problems at the principal's home to affect the final outcome of a show. So we were pre-recording everything, and the goal was to stream it out at the end of June. The guy had a horrible live recording with our first school. Horrible. All the microphones were on in the software he was using. When you heard the principal speaking, you heard people swishing papers on this side. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And he thought it wasn't his fault. Too bad I have a minor in audio technology and I know it was his fault. And I was like, this is not going to work. Anxiety, but growth opportunity. How am I going to do this? I said, I need to pre-produce everything. It's not going to be live. What I thought initially was what I should have done. Double down on talented editors to pull this off. So that Sunday, we were overwhelmed for weeks. We decided to go to the beach, and I was going to make phone calls to figure out how are we going to pivot. In a Facebook group, I said, hey, does anybody know how to take a list of student names and synchronize it with student photos in animation software and export it all as a show? Because that's the real time consuming part of these edits. And I'm going to try not to get too detailed on the specifics here, but here's a big learning thing on the power of Facebook groups. This guy said, by the way, I was in Adobe Premiere for all the technical people out there. I was in Adobe Premiere After Effects Facebook group. And I said, hey, can anybody make a recommendation to anybody that might know how to import a CSV, bring it into animation software, make it look beautiful with photo synchronization, and export it as a movie file? One guy said, yeah, I actually did that a few weeks ago with another company, and they went another route. Hired that guy, showed me his incredible work. So he was in charge of all the student ceremonies. Graduating class of 75, graduating class of 210. There was a class that we did 650 kids that he was able to do with more of a process and system than manually writing every person's name one by one. So to kind of speed through the story, and I love to give people some sort of value after my story here, is we decided to stream out these events through a technical person that I partnered with, and we scheduled them on private links for each school through our own domain, through our own server, and we were able to successfully record, pre-record, an entire show, get usually 2 to 3 revisions from the school to make sure they liked it. As much as we told them to review the typos of student names, of course, there was a ton of typos. And we pulled it off. 100% success rate with the system that we designed along the way. And I sort of took a deep breath the 27th, the day after the last graduation. And I said, I cannot believe we pulled that off. And there must be companies, entrepreneurs, people that have done things like that on an even higher level and embraced the fear and embraced the anxiety and said, I'm going to push right through this. Steve Jobs always had a vision on, oh my gosh, it would be so cool to have this cool phone. He never knew how he was going to get there, but he put the pressure on himself and his resources and his team. He didn't even make the iPhone. He just thought of it, right? He's on stage taking all the credit for it. There's other people that made the iPhone within Apple, but he knew where he wanted to go and said, I trust myself and my perseverance to make it happen. So we ended up doing 65 virtual events. I think 9 of them were dance parties. Most of them were virtual graduations. And we just got rave reviews, people emailing us, overwhelmed with joy, and that we pulled it off. I wish we did graduations every month. It would have been awesome. And, now we're working on other pivots, moving into the holiday season. But this was a big, big thing for me, and a huge pivot that on paper doesn't make sense, right? I gave myself permission to go down a route that did not make sense. But I knew I could help. I know some video editing. I know a ton of video editors, and I'll figure out the rest. There's one skill that if you're not comfortable in, I'd recommend you really focus on it, and it's called sales. It's something that I'm comfortable in, and something that I've worked on a lot over the years. So there's one skill out of this little lesson, it's sales. I was confident with the IT director on the initial call. I had some tech to show him. I prepared something last minute that, in my opinion, was very basic that we showed him through like a Zoom meeting like this. And my confidence, my certainty that I can help him got us the opportunity. So I learned over the years that everybody's figuring it out. And this was even reinforced this week when we had all these speakers at this expo that we were involved in. That somebody that I spoke with had the opportunity to go to Sir Richard Branson's island in the Caribbean. And Richard Branson, billionaire with the Virgin Group, he said, "Oh, I'm still figuring things out, man." Whoa. Richard Branson's still figuring out? Does that mean Mark Cuban and Damon John and everybody else who, many of us that aren't at that level yet, think that they did figure it out? So that was one big distinction that I'm like, wow, I had a moment like that where years ago, there's a gentleman who I put on the highest platter. He's made massive success as a coach, as a speaker. There's something in the US called Funnel Hacking Live. He's made multiple millions of dollars in his business. And then I thought he was already making it. He figured it out. And then I saw him questioning whether or not he was ready for the next level. And I was like, wait, that's the same feeling that I have. I'm not there yet. And then he has the same feelings that somebody that's making triple of what he's making, or making, from 1 million to 10, from 10 million to 100, from 100 million to 1 billion, or 500. Let's go smaller increments up top. But everybody's still figuring it out. And I'm like, whoa, this has been a tough year for everybody. And if there's one thing that I would say is, you're not the only one that feels the way you're feeling. Even people at the highest level are feeling that way. And that was a huge, huge distinction. So, that's my story of how I pivoted. I ended up having the biggest June, the biggest month my company's ever had in the history of my company, DLE Event Group. We had the biggest month ever, and we were multiples, probably 6, 7x, 8x our best month 4x'd our best month ever during a pandemic, doing stuff that some people would have talked themselves out of doing. Who am I to deserve that? But I embraced it. And that's the biggest growth that we've had. And, during these tough times, big companies are coming out of this, folks. Did you know that Uber, WhatsApp, Airbnb, they all started during a recession? All of them. They saw opportunities. And they said, well, we really need to double down on this. Netflix was started, I believe, in 99 when it was kind of a recession. They're doing okay now. So if there's one thing I would say is you have to start thinking of what skills you have. Somebody who I interviewed, a gentleman by the name of Mario Armstrong, he said, write down on a piece of paper, put a line between it, and there's 2 columns. And this is the advice I'd give to people that are like frozen because they're so used to serving one industry and feel a little hesitant to serve another. So he did something where he did one line down the middle, 2 columns, and in one column he wrote, what am I great at? What am I so great at? And then the second column is what people or companies can benefit with the skills that I have. I was in the wedding market. I was in the corporate market. All that stuff was paused. And if I thought that I could just do virtual weddings, which some people did, but most did not, I would still be stuck. And I'd still be trying to figure out. I'd still be waiting for weddings to come back. And little by little, yes, weddings are coming back. It's getting cold in New York. Everybody's pretty much sent it into next year. We did some August and September. But you need to give yourself permission to take the skills that you have and think of it a little bit differently. So, we create our own truths in our mind. They're only true a lot of times, especially with the identity and how we see the world, because we believe them. So let me give an example. We're all sort of influenced and I'll even say programmed by our culture, by our family, by our parents, by our relationships, by religion. And that's sort of designed us to walk with the identity in what we believe in every single day. I'll give you 2 examples of this. One is a really simple one. If you're in a restaurant, at least in the United States, and you don't like your meal, it doesn't taste good, it's overcooked, do you send it back? Or do you not tell anybody and just write them a bad review later? I have learned, send it back, but do it politely. Hey, excuse me, I'm so sorry. My girlfriend's steak, she doesn't quite like it. Would you mind changing it for the salad? Most of the time, of course, I'd be happy to do that. But some people, the way that they've kind of been brought up, get immense anxiety with even the thought of doing that. Same thing with drinks. My girlfriend loves her mojitos, but a lot of times mojitos don't get it right. Hey, babe, the mojito's not that great. Can we just switch it for a pineapple vodka? Yeah, no problem. But be polite about it. I'm so sorry. Excuse me, server. She doesn't quite like her drink. Would you mind switching it for this drink? Little mindset shift. Now imagine that little basic rule that we've designed for ourselves, or subconsciously, that's how we are. And it's not a big deal. That's the other thing. It's not a big deal, but we think it's a big deal in our heads. Oh my goodness, the judgment that I'm going to get from this server is going to overwhelm me, and oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world. No, it's not. But some people think it is. Another example in business is there was this dentist that was present at a Tony Robbins event, at an event called Business Mastery. And they were talking about how they can grow their business 10% or more. She stands up and she says, if I raise my business rates by 10%, half of my customers are going to leave. That was the truth that she believed in herself. And because she believed it, therefore it's true, because she is living her own world and she runs her own business. He said, do you really think if you raise your prices by 10%, half your customers are going to leave? And here we go. She had her limiting beliefs. Yes, because it's all insurance based and nobody wants to pay out of pocket. And oh my goodness, everybody's going to leave. That's the belief she had. That's her truth with making that move. And Tony said, do you think you might not have enough information to make that certain decision that half of your customers are going to leave? Do you genuinely, oh yeah, they're going to leave. Do you think you might, or would you be maybe open-minded to exploring on what's possible, on how you might be able to raise your prices, and maybe you're jumping to conclusions? Oh, you're right. I might be jumping to conclusions. What if you raise your prices by 30%, you called all your customers, and you said, hi, I really have honored you guys being one of my patients for X amount of years. It means a lot. And I wanted to call you personally because I wanted to tell you that we are raising our rates, but here's why. The customer experience is really important to me. The way that we've been priced right now, I feel I can't give personalized attention and a personal experience to every single one of my customers. So while I recognize some customers may not want to stick around, many will because of the importance of how I feel about them. She's like, oh, if I did that, that actually might work because people do like me. And if I told them I want to invest more time with them because their health, their teeth matters to me, then people might stick around. You know what she said? Tony, somebody gave me this advice 10 years ago, but they didn't put it like that. Whoa. 10 years of you thinking one thing that is only true because you believe it to be true. And there's patterns that we have in our minds that hold us back every day. Self-awareness is a superpower. Self-awareness is a superpower. If you think there are things that are holding you back because of things that have influenced you and have built you up to the person you are today, you may need to put new association with those beliefs. Just like I explained earlier about how I look at fear, how I look at anxiety as actually growth. So what we truly, every day, our emotions are three things. It's what our body is doing, it's your physiology, it's what you're focusing on, and the language you're using. The language of that dentist was, it's not going to happen, I know it for certain, no freaking way it's going to grow. And her posture was, no, there's no way I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be able to raise my prices. Absolutely not. And that was the belief she had. She needed to change her emotions in order to really, really start to see it from another perspective. Self-awareness is massive. So that's a little bit about some of the mind stuff. I want to give people some true actionable takeaways. I'm big with takeaways. I know stories are great inspiration, and stories help people see what's possible. Humans love stories. I love stories. But let me give you guys some advice. I know there's people from all over the world. There's people in Croatia. Saltwater Nomads is hosting something really, really special. And I hope some of the takeaways that I'm about to share with you gives you some ideas on what you can do for your life. It's not all about business. It's about life and being fulfilled and having happiness and, just having gratitude every day. So one of the first takeaways is the power of partnerships right now. Partnerships. Who can you help that may already have your customer? Not all about cold marketing all the time. Who can you help that may already have your customer? I'm a firm believer in giving value without expectation. So if I was to give advice to everybody in here, write this down. Write down 10 businesses, 10 companies that you feel you could help where there could be future opportunities. Little exercise. Reach out to them, ask them how you could help. So even offering people that you normally wouldn't. Sometimes competitors. Now look, there's reaching out to customers and asking them how you could help them, but also reaching out to competitors. Oh, competitors. Put your ego aside. There's a planner in my industry that is thriving right now because she's reaching out to people that most others would say, oh my gosh, they're my competition. They're a planner as well. I can't reach out to them. Limiting belief. That's the truth we believe in. Reach out to people that you can help, even if it felt like in the past, oh, they're my competition, because there's incredible willingness to help across industries right now. And I believe vulnerability is the new currency. Being vulnerable and saying, I want to help. I know, you don't have to say this, but in the past, you were my competitor, but I want to help you. What are you guys up to? Can I help you? We're doing a big production, Saltwater Nomads. You know what? Saltwater Nomads, I could help you guys. I know you guys are really doing this and you're going to be thriving here. What if I was to help you run the live stream into all the platforms, into Instagram, into Facebook, into YouTube, into Twitch, into Periscope? What if I helped you guys run that? Oh, wow. Actually, we might be able to use some help there. Oh, wow. That's a new connection and willing to help, right? So partnerships are really big. Give without expectation. How can I help you guys? I'd love to help you guys. I feel like I can add value. Also, learn and up your knowledge. If you're not learning and continue to learn with the times, you're really going to be left behind. Damon John, who we had the luxury of interviewing a few days ago, he said he's learning from Ryan Dice from Digital Marketer. I'm sure many of you know Ryan Dice and Digital Marketer. He's learning online marketing now from a guy like Ryan Dice. Does Damon John need to learn digital marketing to be successful? No. But will it give him the competitive edge when he's having conversations with marketers that are helping him with his businesses? Absolutely. And you know what he said? I'm taking Facebook ads courses after I'm done with Ryan Dice's course. Damon John's going to learn Facebook ads. Yeah, because when he's speaking about, hey, we could scale your business through custom audiences and lookalike audiences through Facebook, and we can leverage Tony Robbins' audience, Russell Brunson's audience, and this audience and that audience, it immediately gives you the savvy to have conversations with marketers. Damon John's learning, and if you're not actively trying to seek more knowledge every single day, you're missing out. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who I was coaching, a photographer who predominantly does weddings. And I said, you need to double down on SEO, search engine optimization. If you're not setting up a strategy so that people can discover you through long tail keywords like, wedding photographer, Plaza Hotel, wedding photographer, Central Park, and starting to build a strategy which takes more effort than it does money, you're missing out. Learning SEO, massive. Learning social media marketing. I just spoke about it with Damon John. Massive. If you're a local business owner, there's tremendous power in local Facebook and Instagram ads. What can you do to incentivize people, or how can you partner with other local brands or companies and offer to help, offer to give without expectation, offer samples, whatever it is. But even $100 in Facebook ads to a local market with some creative hook to incentivize people to say, you get this, and normally it's this, but we have an irresistible offer. Offers are huge. Don't just be, hey, come check us out. No. Think of an offer that's going to excite people to want to act now. Okay? It's not come and join us. We're COVID. We're observing the COVID guidelines. Come and join us today. No. Give them a reason to say, oh my gosh, I want to come here because this is such a great offer. It's too good to be true. I'm going to take it. Proximity is power. Proximity is power. What Saltwater Nomads is doing right now, building this community, giving value to an audience of people that are looking to truly be in the right mindset, to truly innovate during these times. Figuring out remote work, going to Croatia, a beautiful country which I cannot wait to come to in the near future, by the way. Look forward to connecting with you, many of you, when I do eventually come, when the time is right. But the proximity of what you're doing right now, being on this call, or even saying, hey, Barbara, Hey, Cynthia. Hey, Fatima. Hey, Frederick. Hey, Alon. Hey, Igor. Hey, Janika. Jasenica. I'd love to grab coffee, a virtual coffee. I'd love to grab coffee, see how we could help each other. Proximity is power. Be around people that are making moves or share similar aspirations of taking it to the next level. I genuinely believe that you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And that could be a bad thing. But I'm sure there's people here that have sort of been in a more pessimistic world where it's like, oh my God, we're just going to stop and da-da-da-da. No. Be at events like this. There is no better time to be able to participate in events as a guest, the communities that come along with this, connecting with these people, and get with people that are in the same headspace as you, or people that you'd like to aspire to. If you're open-minded, at least being open-minded to thinking about things a little bit differently than you normally have. Also, changing your audience and target. I went from weddings to corporate to education. Some of you have thought about it. I interviewed somebody that's in PR a few days ago. He used to be in entertainment, arts, and fashion. He would do PR. That industry is pretty slow right now. He said, I have all these skills. Who else can I serve? He's doing PR for a PPE, mask, a child mask company, and one other industry. I forget it off the top of my head. And he's making money, and he's starting to get back into momentum, taking skills that he has and serving another industry, another target market. I'm a firm believer in there's riches in the niches. But if your niche is frozen right now, you need to do something else. You need to say, look, things are not exactly the way they used to be, and I need to take skills and put them somewhere else, or even learn new skills to stay ahead of the curve going into 2021. Check in with your customers. How many of you have actually reached out to your entire customer list, or those of you that are more in a tight-knit, more relationship model, calling them up? How are you guys doing? I just wanted to call and say hi. I know it's been a tough year. I know we're trying to figure out what your event's looking like. Is there anything we could help you with? I'm a firm believer of just, again, giving without expectation. This is such a powerful thing. Write that down. Give without expectation. I used to go to networking events and used to try to think, how can I leverage everybody in this room for myself? And that's what most people at networking events do. Most people say, how can I make money? All right, how's it going? Oh, this is what you do. This is what I do. Oh, cool. You think you need video services? Like if you're a video editor, you need any help with video? When I switched my approach to my interactions with my customers, with my networking, with wanting to help people were my connections started to flourish. Instead of, hey, you need any entertainment for your upcoming events for corporate? Can we help you? And it was, hey, is there something that we could help you with? Or I'd love to just help you. What are you working on? What are some of the challenges you're working on? Oh, you know what? Let me connect you with my friend. He's over in Tokyo. And I think he'd be a great person to help you with this. And just think about that for a second. Oh my gosh, this person's going out of his way to intro to me to his friend in Japan. And look, if you help 10 people and 2 or 3 of them end up needing your help in return in some capacity, imagine doing that at scale. There's something called Dream 100, where a gentleman by the name of Chet Holmes said, let me just try to show value. And eventually the people are going to want to work with you. Give without expectation. Massive. Absolutely massive. And kind of touched on this a little while ago, but pivoting services or products. If you feel what you currently do is stuck, think a little bit more abstractly. I mean, it's okay to continue marketing, and if things are a little bit better in your area or virtually, if you could bounce around with sort of being virtual, then awesome. But if you think a model that you've done prior to March happening in the US isn't quite thriving right now, and there's things holding you back due to limitations, start to think of how you can do this differently. In 1, 2, 3 years, what are 3 skills that you think could be useful for you to become really, really strong in? a gentleman by the name of Brendan Burchard. He wrote a book called High Performance Habits. And he said, I wasn't great at public speaking. I wasn't great at speaking to camera. I wasn't great at email marketing, but I knew those were three things that I needed to become so strong in order to get to where I know I need to go. And he doubled down. He became a better speaker. He learned this technology of capturing and storytelling and making impactful messaging land. And now he's really thriving. So think about that for a second. A lot of us have a lot of strengths, but then there's also opportunities in where we can focus and where we can learn to really take things to where things are heading, right? The world that we're in now, there's so much opportunity, so much opportunity. I'm excited about things that I'm working on internally on what I feel is going to be super needed moving into next year. So pivoting services and products, absolutely huge. And if you're a local business, I know there's some local business owners and you're trying to figure out your next step, consider switching to some sort of mobile option. I heard this really awesome story. A dog grooming location completely stopped. You can't go inside the space. He decided, I'm going to go mobile. I'm going to reach out to some local writers, some local publication, and see if I can get some press. And he's booming. He's got a vehicle, and he's doing grooming around his local area here in the U.S. I mean, a little pivot. It's absolutely amazing. And even pivoting to selling online. If you're a local business and your model has been local and in person, and there's an opportunity to going online, you got to do it. And if you don't feel comfortable with the tech side of it or the marketing aspect, reach out to somebody and say, hey, I was wondering if you could help me. Hey, Dan, I was wondering if you could recommend this. Or Dan, do you recommend a course that I could take on this? YouTube is a massive resource. There's so much you can learn on YouTube. You could probably get an MBA. There's IT degrees that you could probably teach yourself. I'm sure many of us would agree that have been to college, university, whatever we'd like to call it, that it's the life experience and the figuring out of specificity of material that is the true experience, the true value. College and university is absolutely awesome. But then there's the other things that it's like, all right, I need to learn this, I need to learn this, and I need to learn that. And remember, you're always going to be the worst at something the first time that you do it. Let me say that again. You're always going to be the worst at something the first time you do it. So don't think, I used to say I'm a terrible artist. I can't draw. I'm terrible at drawing characters, cartoons. And that's the belief that I had of myself. But if I practiced a whole ton, I guarantee you I would have got a lot better. But I kind of didn't practice because I told myself that all the time, and therefore I never did it. So you'll always be the worst at something the first time that you do it. So I ask all of you, unapologetically, just take action. Just take action. There's going to be sort of darkness or uncertainty or fear, imposter syndrome. You don't deserve to be that at that level. Growth is disguised as uncertainty. If that hasn't been driven home to you yet, I genuinely believe that. And it's the high performers, it's the leaders that recognize, okay, yep, that feels pretty uncomfortable, but that's what growth feels like. Now, and there's a really beautiful analogy. If you picture a car that's on like a flat road that broke down, the hardest part to pushing it to the station that's a quarter mile away is that first push, right? If you open the door, put the car in neutral, and you try to give it a push, the first part of getting that momentum going is the beginning. And as the momentum is going, it starts to get easier. If we think of succeeding as a 1 to 100, that 1 to 10%, I think, is the hardest part. Getting started, believing in yourself, going. Because it's never as bad as it is that a lot of times our head holds us back. And, starting's the hardest part, everybody. Most people don't. Most people wait for that perfect opportunity.
On that note, Daniel,
and
we've got a few minutes left, and what I want to do is you've mentioned about pivoting, you've mentioned about that first push, and you've mentioned about the fear of failure. Now, fear of failure here, I think you might have heard yesterday, is quite big. That stops a lot of Croatian businesses or entrepreneurs from starting. But something that, as you definitely know, we've pushed forward recently is the digital nomad visa, and this is a bit of a pivot as well. So we've got 3 minutes left. I wonder if you could. I wonder if you had any thoughts on that, like how to continue down that path, this pivot that, say, Croatia or definitely Dubrovnik are now embarking on.
Can you explain that to me? I actually missed the session where you spoke about that visa.
So the digital nomad visa will be it will be so you have a tourist visa, right? And these are quite short term. So the digital nomad visa will be a bit longer to enable digital nomads to come and live here, a bit more kind of, able to work and stuff, which is another thing. So it's just the beginning. So we don't have it yet. There are 6 countries in the world that have
Hmm.
it already. Croatia's just pushed forward
Hmm.
with this. So it's definitely a pivot. So I wondered if you had any kind of final pieces of advice for, it's a government, public, and private um, initiative. So any kind of final comments on that?
As far as taking action into something like that visa for remote work, is that kind of the question? Yeah. I honestly think there's no better time to try things that are new. I think the comfort zone side of going to a beautiful place like Dubrovnik, or really the entire beautiful country of Croatia, is like there's no better time to, I think, consider the remote possibilities of going somewhere, because I think there's this beautiful piece that sometimes people miss where it's all about business. How am I going to grow? How am I going to grow? What about the personal side? What about you being able to just take a deep breath and say, I'm going to go for a beautiful jog this morning on the beach? And if you currently live in an area that doesn't allow you to do that, why not switch up the environment? Why not go to a beautiful place? I literally can't wait. I was looking at photos of Dubrovnik and I'm like, I cannot wait to go there. I think there's such a need to sort of be more grounded as a professional. And I think if you're able to switch up, if you feel like you've been in this bad funk or you're in this kind of rut where you currently are, and you feel like there's an opportunity to make new connections and try something new, I think now's the best time. I spoke about a lot of trying new things, and I've literally sent my brother things over the years about who is a director of analytics in the U.S. for a digital marketing agency. And I was like, Derek, look how cool it is to work remote and go to these beautiful places. So I definitely think people, if you're looking for a beautiful change in a beautiful place, I mean, this sounds like a phenomenal opportunity, man.
Brilliant, thanks. Yeah, no, we've got plenty of takeaways from you today, so thank you for all of those. I've got partnerships are key, so we're seeing those now. Get the experts in. You mentioned about video editing that you did, getting the experts in. So obviously, there's a few of those needed, and always continue growing your knowledge. So thank you for all of those takeaways. Thanks for joining us today,
You're
Daniel.
welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.